The name of the album is called Adventure, and it describes instrumentally my musical adventure over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that can range from different setbacks and obstacles that I went through, pioneering this massive vision
Mm-hmm.
that I have into existence, not knowing what to do with it, not really having the support to back it. And then also just breaking barriers in the industry, breaking gender, race, social, cultural barriers when it comes to music. How I was able to navigate the music industry as a Black woman instrumentalist without help, navigating the biggest global pandemic of my time.
Now here in The Cut, we challenge our guests to finish a tub of ice cream before the end of the conversation. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Cool Table. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather. Now, here in The Cut, we challenge our guests to finish a tub of ice cream before the end of the conversation. For safe stomachs and tender tummies, we have decided to go away from that today, but I want to welcome a friend to the show, making their first appearance, and long-awaited, Desarae Dee.
Hey, what's going on?
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I think at some point we will have to do a proper ice cream challenge. And maybe because you missed this one, we do too.
Okay.
Like, you got 2 different flavors. You got to go.
Does it have to be ice cream? Can we do like a popsicle challenge or something?
No. No wiggle room on this show.
Okay.
Yeah,
I tried.
We stick to the rules.
I tried.
You're celebrating an anniversary coming up.
Yes, I am.
But we're going to go past that, okay? We're going to go before the anniversary. Okay? When you were coming up as a kid, starting in music, what was the first instrument that was put into your hand?
The first instrument that was put into my hands was the piano.
Not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either, but...
Yeah. And from that time, I guess, where were you playing and what were you thinking of, like, what your future would be with piano?
Well, I didn't think that I would be doing music as, my job.
So what did you think your job would be at that time?
Well, let's see. When I was 6 years old, I definitely wasn't thinking about playing music. I was running around with the boys. I was a tomboy. I wanted to play sports. So if I wasn't doing music, I'd probably be playing basketball.
Hoop dreams.
And after my playing career, I'd probably be coaching because I am a teacher. So, yeah.
So you had hoop dreams? And then
I did have hoop dreams to play Division I basketball and, be a coach and help others achieve their dreams as well.
Yeah, I always like the intersection of, like, hooping and music, like, because, we see all the rappers that make music now, the musicians that can play a little bit. Because I always think of it because it's like, usually basketball comes first.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, once basketball runs out, so to speak, then we say, okay, music. But you technically had music first, it seems like, which is, I feel like, a rare occurrence. We're talking about people being musicians. Yeah. I feel like people miss that musicianship upbringing because sports usually come first.
Yep. I mean, I'm grateful for my parents. I mean, my dad was the musician in the house, and I have a younger brother, and he was a gamer. He had no interest in music. Actually, they did put him in lessons for like a couple weeks, and he was like, nope, not having it.
What is that like? Because I played the keys growing up as well, and my brother also got put into lessons, and he lasted 2 weeks, and I said, how did they pull that off? Because I remember I was a couple years deep, and I said, when do I get to quit? When do I get to leave like my brother left? So it's funny you said about your brother. I was like, how did you guys pull that off? Maybe I actually secretly liked it and that's why I was there. But I always like, how am I still here 100 weeks later and he's quit? But that seemed like you were the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I was the oldest. I'm the
oldest too, yeah.
Oldest daughter problems, right? With Jamaican parents who are like, basically, you don't get to quit. We put you here, we spend the money, so you have to just see it through.
We walked barefoot for you to do this.
Right? Do you know how many sacrifices we made to put you in lessons?
You're not even joking. Like, it's so real.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, so you're the oldest, so there's no way you were gonna...
But also, It's this thing of, well, you have to set an example. You can't quit. Like, you have to show your younger brother that you can't quit at things, and you have to continue no matter how much you don't like it. But eventually, there's a reason why things had to happen that way.
What avenues did you even have in like middle school, high school, for someone playing keys? Because I started playing keys pretty early, and like drumming is probably my like number one instrument still. But I didn't have like, I was in a band for a few months that did not go far. I played in the band in middle school and high school, but in the band, I wasn't allowed to play drums. I was playing tuba, I was playing baritone, I was playing trumpet. So where were you playing keys as you got older? Like where was that even happening?
So I was still playing keys, mostly in piano lessons, but also I grew up in church. So that's where I got a lot of my piano experience and my times to play. And we didn't have middle school. I went to a K-8 school. Okay. So I think it was in grade 6, I was playing the trumpet. And I hated that instrument so much. And then when I got to grade 7, I switched to the saxophone. So the saxophone is actually my secondary instrument. And I just fell in love with that instrument. And I remember my teacher came up to me and she's like, yeah, so this is opportunity called the Durham Honor Band. So for those who grew up in Durham region, you know about Durham Honor Band, and they chose like a couple of students, like their top students, to be part of this big band. So I got chosen with another girl who plays clarinet. And I remember going to one of the rehearsals and there was like 100 kids there. And the conductor, he asked a question. And normally I wouldn't, raise my hand. I would just don't want to embarrass myself. So he asked the question and I raised my hand and I knew the answer. So then after the rehearsal, he comes up to me. He's like, yeah, so do you want to give a speech? What do you mean give a speech? He's like, yeah, so we choose a couple of, standout students to give a speech at the final concert. And they get to talk about their experience and things that they learned when they were there. And I was like, okay, sure. So I was one of I think there were 6 of us.
Damn.
And we got to give a whole speech about our experience and how our experience shaped, us as a musician and, thanking the people that allowed us to be part of this. So it was kind of cool to have that experience. And fast forward, I think it was 5 years after that, I ended up back in the same honor band in high school.
Crazy.
But I got to play piano because I was in the jazz band.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm happy you got to play keys because I always think about that. Like, if you are someone who only plays one instrument, like there are people like that, no shade to those people. But, where do you find your outlet in high school and sometimes college? So that's pretty cool that you got to play in jazz band. That was like, when I stopped playing band, I went to a different high school, my first high school. I wish that we had a different kind of band. I was like, y'all are playing the songs I don't want to play.
Yeah, well, I mean, the school that I went to, we had a bunch of different bands. We had junior band, which was grade 9 and 10, and we had senior concert band, which was 11 and 12. I'm just saying, the perks of growing up in Durham region. Right?
No, literally.
And then we had junior jazz band for grade 9 and 10, and senior jazz band for grade 11 and 12. We also had clarinet choir, flute choir. There was a bunch of opportunities just to be involved. We even had a music council.
No, you guys are different. Okay.
So we curated different music events at the school. So there was a whole council. I wasn't part of the council because I was busy playing basketball and doing music at the same time. So I had no more time in my schedule to be kind of part of the council. But it just shows you, even just as a woman and, playing in the jazz band, I was always the only girl. I was always the only girl and the only Black girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So I know there was 1 year I didn't do jazz band because there was a kid that was a year older than me and they always chose him for piano and I didn't really want to play sax. So
you're like, no.
I was already playing sax in the concert choirs, or not the concert choirs, but the concert bands. So I said, well, I want to play piano. So when you guys have a slot, let me know. So when he went to grade 11, I now got to.
Oh, you graduated into that spot.
Exactly.
Yeah, the school sounds like one of those schools in like a movie, like High School Musical or like Pitch Perfect. And you're like, how do you guys have all these programs? Glad to know it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I did not know that schools were really doing
it
this big. I guess tell me about your first time creating in the way that you create now, because playing in a band different from creating the music the way you do. So like, were you already doing it when you were in high school, or was there a time afterwards when you kind of sat down, like, okay, let me try and build something for myself here?
So I actually didn't start writing until I was in grade 10.
Okay.
And I wrote my first song. And while I was writing that song, I was playing all these complex chords. And I had no idea what they were because we didn't learn about them in school. And then I didn't learn about them in my private lessons because it was just classically based. And the odd time, my teacher would let me play like pop and R&B and gospel. And she would help me with the songs that I would have to play at church. But I had this song and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it was when I was getting ready to apply to university, I knew that music was something I could see myself doing for the long run. So I remember my guidance counselor telling me, Desarae, if you're going to go to university, pursue something that you love.
Facts.
Because at that point, I actually wanted to be a lawyer. And you
Damn.
need a university degree in order to apply to law school. So I said, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well do something that I love, but also figure out what I'm playing. So I ended up going to York University and went to York. Had to experience a strike in my first year. But I was able to figure out what I was doing. And I was like, oh, I took jazz courses and stuff. And they're like showing me all these different jazz extensions and learning the jazz theory. And I was like, oh, what I'm doing makes sense now.
So it kind of clicked after that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So when do you, I guess, start your time for the 10-year anniversary? Because you say to somebody's 10-year anniversary.
10 years, yeah.
When is the time you're saying, like, as the start to be like, this is the anniversary of, is it the release? Is it the first single? Like, what is the anniversary starting from?
So I start my anniversary from the very first song that I released.
First release. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I think I probably already had it in my mind that I wanted to do this, but I think the first release kind of solidified it for me.
Yeah. The first release is almost okay, this is really happening now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take me back to that time. That, like, again, it's a long time now, but what was it like at that time when you first released it? Like, what were the reactions? How did you feel in the moment?
Well, that song was kind of a tester because I'm actually singing on that song, and I don't sing much anymore.
No, it's a different lifestyle.
Oh, yeah. That's no longer my ministry, but... But you know what? I actually did it as a tester to see what the reaction would be. And I put it out and I actually got good reaction from it. But from doing that song, I realized that I enjoyed the instrumental process and putting the music together for it. And that's kind of the direction that I ended up going in.
Yeah, because when I went back, I listened to a bunch of your old songs, and the songs where I have found that I heard you singing, I'm kind of like, it's almost like so foreign to me because I was more comfortable with your music, without you singing.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, is this really her? Like, is this like, is someone uncredited of this? But what made you make that switch? Because I always am so curious when someone makes that switch from like, they rap, now I'm just a producer. Or, I was a manager, now I rap. Like, choosing to switch like that, I feel like it's always so interesting to me. So did something happen? Like, what made you decide, okay, like, I'm just not going to be doing that much anymore? You
know what? I don't think I actually decided to switch. It was, I grew up singing in the church choirs and stuff. I never really enjoyed it, to be honest. I'm just being honest. And, sometimes you do things just to make your parents happy. But within that and this learning how to play the piano, I really enjoyed the piano and I wanted to do more with it. So when I put out that song, it was like, okay, this is my tester to see if I want to still keep singing or not. Or if I wanted to really dive into the instrumental part of it. Because before this, I was singing with a group for like 3 years.
So you were already kind of thinking about switching over, and you're like, this will kind of let me know if I actually...
That's it, yeah.
Okay, I like you having that foresight, because you're right. There's no way you're going to play keys in church and not sing. Like... that's just not a thing that really happens. And then you having the foresight to be like, okay, like, I actually want to make this switch. Did you have any inhibitions about that, or you were solely like, this is what I like, I'm cool to do it?
Well, I mean, it just took me really seeing how much I really enjoyed music and how much I enjoyed the piano, because like I said, I did not want to do music, but it was me really enjoying it and finding my voice, and that was kind of my voice. And I was like, oh, I can do this, but I want to do more with it because, I was always singing, but to be honest, I never really enjoyed singing either. But I really enjoyed playing more.
And this came down to that. There was nothing. That, yo, let's snap for that. I respect it. No, honestly, because I think like the landscape of music to be an instrumental artist, and that's like almost uncharted territory for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a lot of people might be scared and be like, okay, I don't even know how to go about that. But for you to just think like, listen, this is what I like to do, so I'm doing it. I think that has to be commended. Like,
yeah, but also I didn't see any representation in the industry of any Black women playing instrumental music solely.
Yeah.
Right? If you see a Black woman who's in the industry, they sing in addition to playing, like Alicia Keys, for example, right? Alicia Keys was one of my inspirations growing up. And she showed me like, oh, as a Black woman instrumentalist, musician, you could be successful, but she sang.
Yeah.
So I never really had an example of anybody who was just an instrumentalist. And I was like, well, I need to fill that void in the industry. And that's why I went in that direction, because I think representation in the industry is so important on all scales, not just, singing or rapping and being an instrumentalist, but just for Black women, I think it's important to have that representation, because anytime, anybody in society sees a Black woman who's in music, they automatically think, oh, she must sing. And I would get asked that question all the time, even after doing a whole instrumental set. The question is, oh, so do you sing as well? Oh, so do you think that's the only thing I can do as a Black woman? Because that's the label that society has put. For so many years, any Black woman in music has been a singer.
Yeah.
And I said, no, we need to change this narrative. We need to change this barrier. Like, Black women are capable of doing other things outside of using their voice, holding a mic. It was the same thing in the church scene as well, too. Churches I would visit, the women were on the stage singing, the men were controlling the music. And I was like, I don't like that. Because I grew up in a church where it was women who held down the keys.
Yep.
And then we had like guys who were playing drums and guitar, but the women held it down, right? And I wanted to see that.
And the keys is the core, like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like, I think about the song you have, Trailblazer, or you're saying what you're saying, I was like, that song came to my mind right away. But I want to know actually like your creative process, because I know like you have this love for the keys. And when I talked to Ryan Howard, Ryan Douglas, I asked him about his love for keys, because he loves keys too. And I'm like, when you're creating a song, is it keys first and then you fill things in after? Or is it like you have like a riff or a melody idea and you kind of just like flesh it out? Like what do you usually do first?
So my creative process is I hear melodies. And it's funny that you asked that, because growing up taking piano lessons, there were things that I struggled with. So, for example, my teacher would be on me about bringing out the melody in my classical pieces because she could never hear them. And I'm like, I need you to work through that. And then I had a weak left hand. And she says, I need you to work on your left hand. So it's funny how those things that I struggled with now are my greatest strengths. And I create my music on melody, because for years I was told, I can't hear your melody. I can't hear your melody. And different life experiences, I hear melodies. So if I hear a melody in my head, I put the melody down and then I form the chords underneath the melodies. And then everything else comes. Sometimes I hear a bass line. Yeah. Because if you listen to my song, Triumph, I wrote the bass line for that song first. And then everything else came. So it depends on what kind of song I'm writing, and also just the story behind that song.
Okay. What can you tell us about the new album in terms of the tone? Because like, this, to me, feels like, again, you're celebrating 10th anniversary. This feels like an album that's going to be like triumphant, celebratory. Am I right in assuming that? And will the tone of the music match that?
You're right, in a sense. Essentially, the name of the album is called Adventure, and it describes instrumentally my musical adventure over the last 10 years. So that can range from different setbacks and obstacles that I went through, pioneering this massive vision that I have into existence, not knowing what to do with it, not really having the support to back it. And then also just breaking barriers in the industry, breaking gender, race, social, cultural barriers when it comes to music. How I was able to navigate the music industry as a Black woman instrumentalist without help, navigating the biggest global pandemic of my time while, being an artist. And actually during that time of COVID is when there was that switch in my sound.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to my earlier stuff, it was more piano bass drums, like
Mhm.
live off the floor
Mhm.
type vibes. And then during the pandemic is when my sound changed to more of a fusion,
More full.
right? And when the pandemic hit, I was already at a high.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I was in my creative bag at that point in time, right? So a lot of the songs on the album were written during the pandemic.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's such a crazy time. Like I feel for artists the most because so much of what you do is predicated on hearing your music outside. Like either you're performing it or it's playing
Mhm.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, that's not that. And like, of course, everyone knows everyone's having those secret COVID parties. You know,
Mhm.
enough time has passed.
Yeah.
But I think it just wasn't the same knowing that it's like you don't know when I'm going to get the same chance
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you made that switch to kind of identifying yourself as an instrumental fusion artist,
Mhm.
why was that important for you to make that distinction?
Because during that time, I went through kind of like a epiphany. I wouldn't even call it an epiphany. God just had to put me in my place at that point in time. This was in 2018. I had a really rough year. I was questioning whether I wanted to continue music.
Mhm.
I was on the brink of quitting. Like I was on the edge of quitting because I wasn't getting support. Like doing something different is hard
Yeah.
when,
Yeah.
you know, people aren't willing to hear you and people aren't being open-minded. And God had to put me in my place. He was like, ma'am, I've given you so many other gifts. What are you doing? Because I was so hyper fixated on the piano, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was sitting there like, I gave you a whole bunch of gifts. Like, you know, you
Mhm.
play 15 instruments. What are you doing?
Mhm.
Sitting on your other gifts, right? You know, the man with the 2 talents and the guy.
Yes.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
So it was kind of a wake-up call that I needed because I
Mhm.
was stuck musically. I didn't know what else to do. And when
Mhm.
I made that realization, I was like, okay, well, it's time to get to work.
Yeah. It's more because I think before maybe you were self-identifying as a pianist
Yeah.
and then changing it to instrumental fusion artist. And I think honestly, like that, like a part of your success over the past few years is because of that. Because
Mhm.
I do think that your musical home being the piano still
Mhm.
comes through in a lot of your music.
Yep.
You know, and I think like that can still be the case without that being the only thing
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah.
And I think that what made the music, I guess, more palatable, more accepted. And to be honest, like without that time, we probably don't have this album.
Very true.
So tough, but I'm happy that you had that epiphany.
I'm happy that I did too, because I promise you I wouldn't be sitting here beside you.
Yeah. Okay. I have some personal questions before we get to the end here.
Okay.
I know you are a voter, okay, for the Recording Academy.
Yeah.
We talk a lot of trash about them.
Yikes.
What can you tell us about that voting process to put us at ease? Because, you know, you're someone I know and trust.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking bad about them, it's just like, what? Not her.
But why are you talking bad about them? That's the question.
I think there's a lot of issues when it comes to who's nominated for certain things and then who wins certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times it can be almost in any genre, but in a certain genre, everyone feels a certain way, but that person may not win.
Right.
And I think everyone wants to know, how does that happen? Where, you know, say it's in country and we all feel like this person is the best country artist in country,
Yeah.
but then somehow that person doesn't win. It's like, I thought we all agreed. So talk to me a little bit about the process and
yeah, well, I'm
put us at
still
ease.
new to the process because I just became.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. From what I've heard and I've seen, I think it's just going to take a collective effort of the people who are part of the Recording Academy. And I think that we're in this new generation of music where all these generations of artists are coming in now, right? They said that they accepted almost 4,000 artists this year. And I'm sure a majority of those artists are millennials and Gen Zs, right? So I think with the incoming class that I'm hoping that there is more of an influence when it comes to the artists that are coming up. I think in times past, I also didn't like the voting process as well too, and how certain people were still getting certain awards. But I mean, everything is a hierarchy. So who knows what's going on at the top? But as long as I do my part,
yes,
And I think everybody needs to do their part
Mm-hmm.
as a Recording Academy member
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that who is deserving is getting voted.
Yeah, and I think too as well, the internet makes it tricky where if your favorite artist doesn't get it, you're pissed.
Yeah.
It's everyone is going to be mad about something, so there's no way to have it be right every single time.
Yeah.
But what I do think is tough, and I'm a voter for the Junos. I vote for the Polaris Prize. The hardest thing is kind of being aware of all the people you're voting for.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something a lot where, like, you're not even aware of this artist. And I'm supposed to choose between Desarae, who I know, and this artist I've never heard of. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I think what the Junos did like this year, which I think helped a lot, was having a whole section to like check out the artists in the actual voting section,
Yeah.
which not a lot of places do. But I think that is where it's like right there while you're voting, there's the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
Here's 2-3 songs to even focus on. Like,
Right.
here's a link to their website. Like, spend whatever 10, 15, 20 minutes, get familiar at least, because there's so much music these days. How can everyone listen to all of it? And I think that's even a tough expectation, no matter how old you are.
Yeah.
It's like, how you should listen to everything.
But also, I think the other part of it too is the type of people that are being a part of these voting committees. Like, if you're not a musician, no shade, but shade. If you're not a musician, how can you really classify what's good and what's not good?
See, now we're getting somewhere. Now we're potting.
Oh, I haven't. That's why I was like, let me get out the other stuff first. But now it's like, okay, let's get to the real, because I looked at the Junos this year in certain categories, and I'm like, interesting. Especially, and I'm speaking on even just like the instrumental and the jazz and electronic, because I submitted something too, and I thought it was really good. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Yeah. So it's like, who is the governing body of people
Who's
that are
deciding
voting and deciding, and are they knowledgeable?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of it is, how are you deciding who's knowledgeable and who can speak on this? And I think like you almost need to do like double the research, because it's like you may be knowledgeable but not on these things. Like, for example, I know for me, when I vote, they say like which sections you're comfortable voting on.
Yeah.
And so I listen to all music, but I try to choose the sections where I actually know I'm listening to most of the artists that are coming out.
Yeah.
I might listen to rock, but I may have my 4 or 5 rock bands that I love, and I'm tapped into them, but I'm not checking out the newest.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let me not vote there because I maybe know less there. So I think that's something where maybe it's like self-realization in themselves of like, listen, I'm not shouldn't even be voting on this. I'm not even hip to who's who and what's what. I can't tell you what's good and what's not.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I think musicians should be the ones who kind of decide. And that's almost a separate like thing in a sense, because who musicians like and who everyone else likes is like 2 separate people.
But you also have to be unbiased.
Yeah, just say this is good music.
Too. Yeah, you can't be overly biased when it comes to these things, because you're not being fair. Right? And it's important to be fair. And also, you need to have the knowledge, and you have to come at it from an unbiased point of view.
Yeah, I think that's hard. Like, that's the hardest thing for a lot of people to do, especially in this industry where so much things kind of like cross over at some point, whether it's like, this publicist over here, or you went to high school with the drummer of this, like whatever it is, there's always some kind of...
Because don't they tell you not to necessarily, like if you know certain artists, not to vote, not to
be a part of it? Yeah. And it's like that conflict of interest. I feel like it's a never ending, and that's why I think it's hard, because only certain people can really say like, Desarae, like, listen, Levels remix, hated it. Trailblazer, loved it, But some people, they don't have that in them, It's like, okay, I know you, so everything's great. And I think that that's kind of where we've come, where it's closing. It's like, okay, I know you a little bit, so I feel like I can't critique you.
Yeah.
When it's like, no, like, we need to all still keep that objectivity. And when it comes to music, like, you can just say this, okay, this is not good, this is good. Like,
I don't know. I'm one of those people where I'd rather you be honest. If you don't like it, cool, let me know. If you do like it, cool, but don't be like, oh, I like it because I'm your friend.
Yeah, no, because then you can trust it. Listen, I
Yeah.
feel like that has happened to you a lot because not everyone listening to instrumental fusion on the regular.
Yep.
So I feel like when you show your friends something, they don't even know what's going on, and they're like,
they're automatically
"Oh my
gonna be
God,
like, "Yo, this is so
amazing!"
fire." I'm like, you can be honest, you know that, right?
It's like the song's 3 minutes long. You answered in 1 minute. Tell me that happens a lot to you for sure.
It does, but also you have those people who've seen the growth over time.
Facts.
Right? So it's not like somebody who's just listening to my music for the first time. Oh my God, that's so fire, but you don't know the journey. Right? Like the people who will say like, oh, it's great, know how far I've come. They've seen the growth. And if you were to compare, like, for example, Late Arrival Remix, right? You have the original version from 2016 versus the 2021 version. And there's a huge.
Yeah. And it's also knowing what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I realized when people are showing music to people who, like, don't know music. Like, yeah, they're your friend and you think they're going to tell you the truth, but it's almost like they're just impressed you created something sometimes, you know? Because they don't create music. They're like, you played keys and it sounded right. Like, that's sick enough. When it's like, you need someone who can say like, no, like, I know that you can actually do better than this, or this is not the level you usually do type of thing. So, no, I think that's it's pretty important. Pretty important. Yeah. September 25th?
Yes.
That's the day of the album. Do you have any plans for the day of the album? This is like 10 years in the making. Is it going to be like your birthday where you celebrate for the whole month? Like, what are your plans?
Well, I mean, my birthday is one day, but I just, because it's the end of the month, I kind of just celebrate for like that whole week.
Okay.
I really don't celebrate for the entire month. I'm just being honest. Like,
well, now you can start.
But I'm being honest.
But listen, when you get we're not gonna put your age out there, but when you get to that next milestone age, then you can celebrate for the whole month.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That milestone age is next year. I'm not telling you how old I am.
She said it, not me.
I just said next year.
She didn't say which milestone. She turned 25, okay?
But yeah, you know what? I always said that if I put out a project that I wanted it to come out on my birthday, right? Because it's special. It's 10 years. I mean, my 10-year anniversary is obviously not on my birthday. It's in November. And there will be a release party.
But
you know,
the album,
I'm definitely going to be playing it again and again and again because I'm one of those people, I blast my own music. Right?
I love that. So
it will be like a new year, new album, 10-year anniversary celebration. I'm gonna pop some wine maybe and sip and take myself out for dinner.
Oh, so you're gonna have a little self-care birthday
album release type thing.
But the actual album release party will be
in November, which is when my actual anniversary is.
Oh, okay. So you moved the date. We're celebrating the anniversary, but you moved the date for being your birthday. Okay, we're not mad at that.
I wanted the album to come on my birthday. Yeah.
No, I'm not mad at that. Listen, we've all chosen anniversary days before.
Yes, but also if I want to submit for certain things, I have to make sure I have it out in time.
Yeah, that part.
Because if I released it on my anniversary, then I wouldn't be eligible for certain things.
Yeah. So that's that part.
Yeah.
I feel like having it be like the same day, your birthday and the album release, it's almost like you get to like have two shots at having a good day. Like I have a friend who got married on his birthday, and so his anniversary is his birthday.
Yeah.
I thought that was a horrible idea. I feel like now your birthday's just canceled. Like your anniversary is gonna trump your birthday in perpetuity. Yeah. But you get to have two good things that like every time it's your birthday again, you're like, oh, remember when I released that album? So I feel like you set yourself up for success with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, I see the vision. I gave you a little heads up earlier that we're going to get here.
Yeah.
Now, when people get $100 million, they get an exotic animal. I don't make the rules. This is just how people get down, okay? Mike Tyson with his tiger, Justin Bieber with his monkey, Michael Jackson with his monkey. So when you get $100 million, how are you going to spend it? What exotic animal are you going to bring into your life? And men don't count.
Wasn't even going to say that. Well, you know what? If I could have an exotic animal, I'd probably have a peacock.
I see that. Just one?
One is enough.
And inside peacock or outside peacock?
Well, when you put it like that, then maybe I should have two. One inside, one outside. One for decoration and one for...
One for decoration is crazy. There's in the lobby doing laps.
No, just standing there, look pretty with all of its,
Oh
wings
my
out.
goodness.
It's for show.
That's an interesting one. That is probably the one I feel like I can't get with you on, because I just feel like your house is gonna feel claustrophobic with the peacock in there.
Depending on how big it is.
It might look, but no, $100 million. So yeah, never mind. You got all the space in the world.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm like peacock in a 1-bedroom. Not gonna cut it, but in a mansion with $100 million. Okay, I'm not mad at that. One outside, so one in the backyard, one in the lobby. Do they don't interact? I guess like one is like a field and one's like yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
One is just for show. The other one can roam. Oh, that rhymes.
Okay.
See, I'm random like that.
But you were just way too excited.
Hey, I mean, I felt nice still.
No, you did.
Let me have my moment. Okay?
Like you did something with that. Like, because I have bars. I was like, okay, okay, Lauryn Hill. Like,
not Lauryn Hill.
No, yeah, Lauryn Hill don't be showing up, so not Lauryn Hill. So last but not least, we have a segment on the radio show called Wednesday Wisdom. Mm-hmm. Look for motivational quote or saying either you remind yourself of or the people around you. What quote is that for you?
Nope. I tell this to everybody, and I have to remind myself on a daily basis. Always be yourself.
That's perfect for this show. We always say know yourself, know your worth. So yeah, you're in line here. I 100% agree with you. I feel like one of the most unattractive things to me when someone's not being themselves, it just gives me the ick. Like
it gives me the ick when you have to put on a show, especially when I know who you really are.
Name names.
I'm not putting nobody on blast. I don't do that. I'm not that kind of friend.
The way you looked into the camera with the side eye, the bombastic side eye, and said, "I know who you are."
No, but even just as an artist, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel sometimes people aren't really truly themselves. Like, especially if you are under a label, for example, like they have their perception of you and how you should be as an artist. But I think that you get the best music out of somebody who's really authentically and truly themselves.
I agree. And I think that the goal is to do that more often.
Yeah.
It's like if you have, you're spending 14 hours a day awake, you want to get to like the most amount of time you can being yourself. Exactly. Of course, things happen, comfortable situations.
Yeah.
But you want to get to the most amount of time you can being yourself. So I like that advice. Thank everyone for getting this far. If you did, I hope that's what you take away from this. Remember to be yourself. I feel like being yourself has kind of gone out of style a little bit. And I usually say bring bullying back, but let's bring back being yourself instead.
Do that first.
Bring back being yourself. Bring back bullying. Bring back gatekeeping. Bring back sidekicks. Bring back flip phones.
Bring back honesty. Bring back transparency. Bring back communication.
Name names.
I don't have names.
All right.
Whoever is watching, they'll know who it's for.
This will be like the Patreon only, where it does just names. And it's like...
I'm still not doing it. Don't do that to me, Adriel.
I'm here for the mess.
Nope.
But thank you for watching. Thank you for coming this far. If you want to hear the radio show, you can hear it live every Wednesday on CJTM Met Radio in Toronto. Find us on Instagram at The Cool Table Live, on TikTok at adrielsmiley.com, and all episodes of The Cool Table can be found at adrielsmiley.com. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit that like button. Share this with your people. Leave us a comment, of course. Let us know what your favorite song is from Des. Go back in the archives. I want to know what everyone's favorite song is in the comments, okay? Please let us know. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
And add tax.
And add tax.